everybody. Thanks for coming. This is the Pokemon X and Y competitive trainer seminar here at PAX East 2014. Who's having a good time?
Before we start, we should just take a quick moment to praise Helix.
And we had some handouts for you guys. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough for everybody, but you should have some amongst you. And if you didn't get one, it's tweeted. And if you didn't get one, we're also going to have it on the Street Pass Long Island website, Pocket Players website, so you can find it online if you want.
Is there a hashtag they can find it?
Hashtag PAX East Pokemon Panel.
Alright, hashtag PAX East Pokemon Panel, and you'll find the handout on Twitter that way.
Hashtag swag.
Okay, so who's ready to learn a little bit about training? Okay, so that's me. I'm Debbie Gluzband. I'm the co-founder of Street Pass Long Island, based out of Long Island, New York. We do local Street Pass events, meetups, and things, Pokemon tournaments. You can visit us at bit.ly/StreetPassLI or go to streetpasslongisland.wordpress.com. My first game I've been playing since Red came out, and I've always liked Pikachu the most. Pretty standard.
Hi everybody, I'm Jeff Weinstein. I'm also co-founder of Street Pass Long Island. I'm a shiny hunter, and I'm proud to say I have 7 full boxes of shiny Pokemon at the moment. And my favorite Panelist Pokemon is Furfrou.
Hi, my name is Peter Ortiz. I am the event organizer and COO of Street Pass NYC. Woo! Check out our website, Facebook.com/Street Pass NYC. My favorite Pokemon overall is Blastoise. Best org starter ever until Ninja came out.
You're gonna get people Friday.
And more importantly, I train, I breed, I battle, and I just love all Pokemon there is.
Hi, I'm Casey. I am a co-founder of a handheld gaming blog called The Pocket Players at thepocketplayers.com. JV and I are a package deal. We've been working together. Even before that, we had a podcast called The Palette Tribune. I don't know if anyone actually remembers that. It was a Pokemon podcast from way back in the day. You're a pretty competitive player, right?
Yeah, that's right. So I'm the more technical half of the Pocket Players website. Was the TBT web admin, and I've been competitive battling since Gen 3 on Shoddy Battle, if anyone remembers that.
What's your favorite Pokemon?
My favorite Pokemon is actually Magnezone.
Oh, yes, it's carried out. It's a little bit of a tie, a cop-out, but one favorite, Murkrow. And my other favorite is Frostlash. Just so graceful.
Yeah.
Alright, so that's our team here. And we wanted to talk about Pokemon X and Y because there's so many new features in X and Y that really make the game more, it's more of a breakthrough game. Everyone can play competitively now. Even if you're more of a casual player like me, I never really got competitive before. I was more of like a single story mode kind of player. Now even I can figure out how to do my own EV training, how to do my own breeding. Everything's much more transparent. So it's just awesome that everyone can play now. We level the playing field. So before we get started, we wanted to just cover a few things. First of all, I've got to shout out PAX Pokemon League, who's been battling with them before. They have a meetup today in the Handheld Lounge, 3:30, and again tomorrow. And they have raffles and all kinds of awesome stuff, so definitely check them out if you haven't already. They have a website, paxpokemonleague.net. Okay.
Okay, before we get started, I'm going to go over the anatomy of a Pokemon. As you can see, here's a picture of my Furfrou.
He's really proud of it.
You have your stats on the left-hand side of the screen. It's important to realize that those are that actual Pokemon stats. Those are not the base stats. The actual base stats of the species can be looked up on any Pokemon resource or the Pokedex. It's important to choose an appropriate nature for your Pokemon's base stats. So, a nature, there's a couple of different types. You have a neutral nature, while others boost the stat 10% while lowering another stat 10%. Adamant, for example, lowers special attack 10% while it boosts regular attack 10%. That's great for a Pokemon, obviously, who has a high physical attack stat so that you're planning on using it as a physical attack. Relaxed, for example, lowers speed 10% and boosts defense 10%. Every Pokemon could also have an ability. In this case, that Furfrou has a Fur Code ability, which is freaking awesome with its stats. Pokemon can also sometimes have a hidden ability. Pokemon with hidden abilities can be found in the Friend Safari in Pokemon X and Y. A couple of examples of ability are Intimidate, which lowers the opponent's attack stat, and also Levitate, which gives the Pokemon immunity to ground type moves. There's also a couple of symbols that you see to the right side of the summary. That red star to the left indicates that this Pokemon is shiny. The pink smiley face indicates that that Pokemon was at one point infected with Pokerus. People will get into what Pokerus is in a couple minutes. And also, you'll notice that there's the blue pentagon logo. That logo signifies that this Pokemon was born in the Kalos region. There's a couple of different types of battles in Pokemon. You have singles battles, doubles, triples, rotation, and multi. And for each one of those battle types, there's rules. You could set it to either have normal rules, flat rules, or no restrictions. And the different moves have different types of categories. There's physical attack moves, special attack, and status moves. Each move also has a particular type, which can be one of the 18 types of Pokemon. It has an accuracy stat, a power stat, and a PP stat. You could use the Pokemon type of the move to your advantage because there's something called Stab, which stands for Same Type Attack Bonus. That's quite simply if you're using a Dark type Pokemon and you use a Dark type move, you get an extra bonus.
50% extra.
Yes. There's also status conditions in Pokemon battles, which could be sleep, poison, paralysis, confusion, and burn. And also frozen and in love as well. There's also held items which you could use in battle. A couple of held items, such as Mega Stones, are very helpful this new generation. They have also effects in battle.
Okay, next slide.
It's up to you.
Alright, so that's the basics. That's all. That's what I, already know. I hope everybody else already knows. If this is way too easy, sorry. But now we're going to get into a little more in depth. Now that I know that there's a lot more to my Pokemon, I need to. So basically, my Pokemon I caught in the wild isn't good enough. Basically. So we're going to have to breed to get new Pokemon that do have the stats and natures and abilities that I want. So it's not gross, it's not as bad as it sounds, so we're going to...
This is a children's game, guys.
So let's start breeding! Alright. Let's do some definition.
Okay, to start with, who's familiar with IVs in the audience? I'm sure you guys heard this menacing term. IV stands for individual value. It's a hidden value for all Pokemon, which is used to determine that Pokemon's potential to be competitive in any one of its stats. IV can have a value between 0 and 31, 0 being a perfect bad stat, while 31 is a perfect high stat. IVs have a certain effect as the Pokemon levels up to maturity. At level 100, each of the Pokemon's IV values are added to its appropriate stat. There's also egg moves which you're going to want to breed for. An egg move is quite simply any move that a Pokemon species can only learn by breeding. In order to get an egg move, you have to know the Pokemon's egg group. An egg group is a category of Pokemon that can breed with each other. A Manectric, for instance, can breed with a Houndoom because they're both field-type egg group, but it can't breed with a Seaking, which is a water egg group. Next slide. Surprisingly, Wailord can even breed with a Skitty. Very interesting. And that's because they're both field eggs.
It's true, and it's kind of
But once again, it's a children's game.
Alright. Now, you guys want to know why you want to breed? Well, with breeding, it lets you customize your Pokemon to your liking. That way you'll know what Pokemon moves and everything else you want on it. You are able to breed a Pokemon with the IVs you want. And it lets you choose the ability and nature of the Pokemon you want as well. Now we go on to breeding tools. You're going to need 2 specific items for breeding. First, you're going to need a Destiny Knot. And what Destiny Knot does is it passes down 5 different IVs between the 2 Pokemon. And then, yeah, it's a crazy thing. Like, but
just added this generation too.
yeah, and it's much easier this time around. Now, the other item you're going to need is an Everstone. And what it does 2 different things. The first thing it does is it guarantees that the Pokemon's nature from the parent will be passed down to the child Pokemon at 100%. And the other thing it does, which not a lot of people know, is that it also passes down the hidden ability to 60%. Most everything else is optional, but those 2 items that I mentioned are highly recommended.
And I think you get them while you play through the game, so it's not that hard to get anywhere.
Yeah. Now, there's some things you need to keep note of. You want to make sure that your parents have the ability and or egg moves that you want, because the mother passes down the ability. Unless you have a Ditto, then the father can pass down the hidden ability as well. Either parent passes down the nature if holding an Everstone. Doesn't matter which one. As long as it holds an Everstone, you're good to go. Now, I recommend keeping a Pokemon in your team with Fly and Flame Body / Magma Armor, because honestly, it's going to be really convenient for you. So I recommend Pokemon like Talonflame or Volcarona, because it both will learn Fly and have Flame Body as an ability. And with Flame Body and Magma Armor, it cuts down the amount of time you have for hatching in half. And don't forget to use the Hatchet Go power as well. It stacks. Now, I'm going to get into the steps on how to breed. Step 1, make sure to get your parent Pokemon. You're going to need 2 Pokemon of either the same species, 2 Pokemon from the same age group, or a Pokemon that you want to breed with Ditto. That's what happens.
That's what gets around a lot.
Yeah, that's what happens when Ditto goes around and breeds with Pokemon. Yeah. Alright, the next step is to drop both Pokemon off the daycare center at Route 7. Make sure that the parents are holding the right items. Remember, Destiny Knot and Everstone are recommended. Step 3, you want to bike around and grab eggs from the hatchery ground. You have to keep biking around, hatch and grab eggs from this guy all the time. And like I said before, make sure to have Flame Body or Magma Armor with you. And step 4, visit this IV checker at the Kilode City Pokemon Center. Once your eggs hatch, fly there, and what you do is you talk to the judge, and he's going to tell you a couple different things about your stats. If the stats say can't be beat, that means it's maxed out 31. But if he insults it, that means it's 0. So you have to be careful on what you get. Be aware of it.
And be aware you can only access Kilode City after you beat the Elite Four.
And now for step 5. Change out your parents in the daycare. If what you got is still not good enough, but it's good enough it's better than the parent Pokemon that you have, you can use it to switch from the parent Pokemon that's inside the daycare already to the new one with much better stats. And as you do this, you'll have better results as you hatch better eggs. You keep doing this until you get all the IVs you want. Step 6, rinse and repeat. You keep doing this, and as soon as you get the Pokemon with the IVs, nature, and ability that you want, as well as the egg moves, you will be good to go. Now we go on to that.
Okay, so now I've bred my Pokemon. It took a long time, but that means I'm ready to battle, right? Now my Pokemon is good to go. Good IVs, good nature, good ability.
I wish.
You're not ready yet.
I still haven't even begun.
No.
So now let's go into training, optimizing Pokemon.
You still have to train.
Be all you can be.
So Jeff?
Slide. Okay, who's familiar with EVs? Not Eevee the Pokemon. I'm talking about effort values. Yes, EV stands for effort values. I'm sure you guys heard of the term EV training. EV training is simply applying EVs, or effort value points, to your Pokemon. EVs are a way to further customize and optimize your Pokemon stats. Every Pokemon knocked out in a wild encounter will yield either 1, 2, or 3 EVs in a specific stat, and that EV yield is specific to each Pokemon species. So it's important to look up in a Pokemon resource website such as Cerebi, find out what EV yield each one of those Pokemon give you. If you fight a lot of Geodudes, for instance, you'll get a bunch of defensive EVs. Look up online and you'll find out exactly where to locate all of these Pokemon as well. It's important to keep in mind that for every 4 EV you apply, that equates to a +1 increase in that stat. You could apply a maximum of 510 EV to any Pokemon.
510, not 410.
510. Oh, yes, 510. And also, there's a maximum of 252 EVs per stat that you could apply. So if you max out 2 stats with 252, you'll notice that you have a remaining 6 EV points, which can be applied to any stat of your choosing.
Alrighty then. Now that we got the definitions of EVs right out of the bat, we're going to talk about some EV training tools. First, there's power items, and what they do is they add 4 EV points to a specific stat based on the power item health. This is +4 add-ons to the EVs you get from knocking out a Pokemon. The next thing you're going to need is a Macho Brace. And what that does is it doubles the amount of EVs you get from a single Pokemon. So the next thing is Pokerus, and it has the same effect as Macho Brace, doubles the effect of the EVs you get from the Pokemon when you knock them out. And the best part about it is that the Pokerus stacks with either Macho Brace or any of the power items. That way, you'll get twice the amount of EVs from whatever you're already getting. And if you have EXP share on, what it does is it passes down the EVs that you got from battling and from all the Pokemon in the party. However, if you have a Pokemon in your party that you don't want to EV train, it's best not to have that there, because then it's going to get the EV points that you don't want on that Pokemon. Now we go on to Horde training. Horde training is the fastest way to EV train, since you can knock out 5 Pokemon in one battle. You can look up online as to where all the Horde encounters are located at for specific EV points, and all the Pokemon you want to face against for that. To do this, you're going to need a Pokemon with the move Sweet Scent, or the item Honey, which forces the Horde encounter to pop up. And I would recommend a wide sweeping move like Dazzle Gleam, Surf, or Earthquake to knock all of them out at once.
Yeah, so that's really awesome because imagine if you have the power item, so that adds +4, and then each individual Pokemon gives you 1 EV. And then you have Pokerus that doubles from 4 + 1 to 5 to 10, and then multiply that by each Pokemon that you see.
So you would get
10
50.
times.
You would get 50 EVs
Per battle.
Yes.
So basically, 6 battles, bam, 1 stat is maxed out if you want to max out.
It's really fast this time.
And very convenient too. Now, let's talk about super training, Debbie.
See, now what all you just said is really cool and stuff, but it went right over my head. I don't do math well. I don't like to play with numbers when I'm playing Pokemon. So they luckily created super training. Super training is awesome for me as somebody who's not into that EV training. I like super training because you have a graph here that shows you exactly where your EVs are, where the strengths lie, how many EVs you've already applied with that little bar on the side. And so I find that the minigame is easier. I start on level 2 and then I just play through until I can reach level 3, and then less than an hour I'm done EV training. So for people who don't like to do the regular classic EV training, this is a great new option in X and Y.
Now I'm actually really curious, who here prefers super training over any other type of EV training?
Not so bad.
Yeah, it's a pretty significant number, so you guys are
We're out there. We like it. It's
I don't
okay.
Now,
It's fine. I'm done.
Now, before we transition, one quick thing is that that's what I love about this game is that there's a lot of people who love to do different things. So whatever you like to do when it comes to training, more power to you.
And another thing to keep note of, a cool little tip for the super training menu at the bottom screen, you'll notice it'll show you how many eggs you have in your party when you're breeding and which one of those are hatched. So you don't have to keep on checking your party or keeping track of which ones were hatched.
It's super useful.
And just that screen alone is very useful. Even if you're training through horde battles or whatever, you can still look at the screen on the super training screen, and you'll see how close you are to finishing up certain stacks. Oh, now the juicy bits.
Yep. So now that you guys know how to create your Pokemon, we should go ahead and try to make a team.
Can you make me a team, Jamie?
I'll do just that. So,
Devious. This guy's devious.
yeah, let's do some fun stuff.
You're gonna learn something.
This is actually the most interesting part for me, so it's really exciting. So yeah, let's create an ideal Pokemon. Like now that you know how to create one, you have to choose the Pokemon that are going to be in your team. It's really important. I want to stress how important team composition is because it actually is a big factor in whether you're going to win in a battle or not. You kind of have to think of it like a sports team. If you're the coach and you have players, but your players suck, they're not going to be able to execute on any of the plays that you ask them to do. So yeah, and team building is incredibly important. And I'll just go over the team building process. Keep in mind, the process that I'm going to be talking with you right now isn't actually that, it's very subjective, essentially. Everyone has their own process, everyone has their own subjective way of doing things, but what we're going to be doing right now is
crafting it in the way that his mind.
It's very subjective, and the way I'm going to be doing it, I'm going to be creating what's called a good stuffs team, which is essentially a team that's centered around being balanced, and it's a great way to start off.
And keep in mind, we're doing doubles teams because that is the official sanctioned tournament. VGC tournament rules right now. So that's the process he's going to go through. Though some of the same rules may apply if you're even doing 6v6 one-on-ones.
All right, so let's start. So the first step would be to pick a base Pokemon, which is going to be, I guess, your lead. It's essentially the quarterback of your strategy. You just pick one Pokemon, see what he's good at. He's going to be the linchpin of your team, just a starting point. From there, you would pick a partner to support your base. These two will be your leads in a double battle. It's going to be synergistic with your lead. Make sure to consider whether it's synergy, yes. Make sure it supplements the lead. Make sure it protects the lead somehow. Just consider the two. Then you would pick the third Pokemon and address the weaknesses of those two leads. You would consider type weaknesses, vulnerabilities, whether they're weak to stat effects or specific moves that you see. The fourth and fifth Pokemon, you would add to make it diverse. So you'd consider alternate leads in these fourth and fifth Pokemon. If you need additional, let's switch in your base Pokemon with another guy. This is a good spot to put him in. And you then pick your sixth Pokemon based on special utility. If you want a healer, a disruptor, a tank, this is a good spot to put your sixth Pokemon in. Yeah, so I see a few people taking pictures of the slide, so I'll just hold it there for just a moment. All right. And to be honest, a lot of this stuff is a little bit nebulous, so the best way to really learn how to create a team is to actually create a team. So what we're going to be doing here is putting the money where our mouth is, and we'll go ahead and go through. I thought it was clever. Whatever. Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and just build a team right now for Debbie.
Yeah, let's make me a team. Okay.
All right, so Debbie, what Pokemon base do you want to create?
I don't know. I like Gen 1.
Okay, so, Gen 1.
What about, I like to be like different and choose something that nobody else wants.
Okay.
Can you ever use Magikarp in battle?
Awesome.
Does it ever have any use?
You're the one that stuck that Magikarp in there.
I mean, why does he exist? What are we going to do?
Well, okay, so Magikarp is pretty cool. I think we should pick a base based on Magikarp's evolution. Gyarados.
Oh, I like some of the
That's what he's used for.
Yep. So Gyarados is awesome. Not
Why isn't Splash on this list? Why did you take that off?
Oh God. Gyarados is awesome to build a team around because he's bulky and he has ways to buff himself. He has that move, Dragon Dance, which boosts his attack and speed, which is really good. He has a high attack stat, so he has a high physical attack. He can kill things with low defense, which is really good. He has a bulky special defense, so hitting him with special attacks is actually isn't going to affect him as much as most other Pokemon. As I mentioned earlier, he has Dragon Dance. He can boost his attack and speed, and Water Flying is a great type coverage. He also has moves like Earthquake and Ice Fang, which can cover a lot of threats out there. Now the only problem is has an average defense stat and he's 4 times weak against electric attacks. Water and Flying is 4 times weak to electric, and electric's pretty common out there. So that brings us to step 2. Pick a partner for your base Pokemon. Since we know that Gyarados is weak to lightning moves, electric moves, let's pick the base, and the one I'm choosing is...
Pikachu?
Right, close, Raichu. Yep. So Raichu is actually a really good partner for Gyarados. He has the ability called Lightning Rod, which redirects all single target electric attacks to Raichu. So yeah, he protects his partner from electric attacks. So let's say an opponent does a Thunderbolt towards your Gyarados. If Raichu's there, Raichu just soaks it back up, giving Gyarados the ability to not get hit by that electric move and boost himself with Dragon Dance. So I'll let him boost while Raichu just sits there and soaks up all those electric attacks. What's awesome is that Lightning Rod also boosts his own special attack as well. He has a great disruption support. He has a move called Fake Out, which if it's the very first turn, he can actually force someone to get flinched, which is useful in doubles battles. And he has pretty decent special attack and speed himself. The only problem is he's a little bit frail. Usually he needs a focus sash because he can be killed in one hit a lot of the times if it's not an electric move. So a good way to supplement that would be to move on to the next step. Pick a third Pokemon to supplement your lead. And the one I'm picking is Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn is awesome. He has insane defense and special defense. So if you have your Raichu out there and you expect him to get hit by something, you can switch out Ferrothorn and Ferrothorn can soak it up like a mother. He's pretty much the quintessential tank, but not only does he take hits, he deals damage on every physical hit. That Iron Barb's ability that he has is really, really good. So when the opponent uses a physical hit on Ferrothorn, he gets hit by the spikes and takes damage. He can even heal himself when he plays Leech Seed on the opponent, which is incredibly useful. Imagine a tank that can heal himself, which is awesome. Now the only problem is he's 4 times weak against fire, and he's incredibly slow. As a tank, slowness is actually pretty good. I mean, it's not that bad, but 4 times weakness to fire is tough. Which brings us to step 4. Pick a 4th Pokemon to add more options to your team. Now I'm going to go ahead and pick for the 4th Pokemon, Hydreigon. I love this guy. Does anyone love Hydreigon here? Yeah. This guy's awesome. Dark Dragon, that's an awesome typing. He has a high special attack stat, he has excellent type coverage, and he's immune to ground and psychic. So he's a really good guy, and he's actually relatively fast for just the sheer amount of special power that he has. He's good to have as a 4th slot because Hydreigon attacks using special attacks, but the very first Pokemon we have is Gyarados, which is a physical attacker. So adding Hydreigon in the 4th slot covers both physical attacks and special attacks. He's a good guy.
Such a good guy.
He's such a good guy.
He's a charity work.
I mean, like,
weekend.
he's
Not Gen 1.
The problem is he has a 4 times weakness against fairies, and he's vulnerable to priority fighting moves or just fighting moves in general. It's good. Every Pokemon has a weakness, but you have to consider that. Which brings us to our next step. Step 5, pick a 5th Pokemon to add even more options to your team. And the 5th Pokemon that I'm picking is Talonflame. Yeah, Talonflame is awesome. Freaking Furfur. So anyway, Talonflame is awesome because he has the ability Gale Wings, which gives all flying moves priority. It's insane. It changes the game quite a bit. It allows them to pull off Tailwind, which doubles your team speed for four turns, and Brave Bird, which make those 2 moves priority. It's crazy. He has excellent speed himself, and he has high damaging attacks like Brave Bird and Flare Blitz. Those are incredibly strong base power moves. And he's good. He would be a good complement to Hydreigon because he can take care of those pesky fighting types that would threaten him. Synergy. Now the problem is, Talonflame is incredibly frail. He's 4 times weak against rocks, so all the stealth rocks you see out there threaten this guy quite a bit. And all of his high damaging moves usually deal knockback damage to himself. So that's something to consider. Which brings us to the next step, step 6. Pick a 6th Pokemon based on special utility. And the one I'm going to be picking is the adorable Meowstic. So cute! He's a Psychic type with the ability Prankster. He has that amazing ability. He's an excellent support Pokemon because that Prankster ability allows him to set up any non-direct offensive move as a priority move.
And it counts as like a status attack.
Yeah, like Swagger, Safeguard, Thunder Wave. Those moves are all priority, which is crazy.
It's amazing.
Yeah, he's an excellent support Pokemon. He's essentially there to disrupt the opponent's Pokemon, weaken them a bit to allow your more frail Pokemon to make their moves. This specific Meowstic has the ability to buff his own team. If you combine Safeguard, which protects your team from taking status moves, you can actually inflict Swagger on your own Pokemon in doubles, which boosts your attack stat by 2 times without having to worry about the confusion.
It's like sword dancing for someone else.
Yeah.
It's a sword Mamushka.
Yeah. So imagine swaggering your own teammate, and then your teammate just does the attack without having to take a turn to Swords Dance. It's crazy. He's okay. He's cute too.
He's a good guy.
He's cute.
It's not as nice as Hydreigon.
No, he's not.
He just donates a little money here.
The problem is obviously he has minimal direct offensive capabilities. He has Psychic. In this moveset, he has Psychic, so he can attack directly if need be. But yeah, he's mostly there for just support. Anyway, yeah, this is our final team. So, Gyarados, Raichu, Ferrothorn, Hydreigon, Talonflame, and Meowstic. As you can see here, each Pokemon have their own individual role. Some are the tanks, some are physical attackers, special attackers. On your sheets of paper, you'll see that some Pokemon have different roles, and you'll be able to read a little bit more on the roles there. Synergy. He's gonna keep doing that, I swear. So anyway, what's really great about this team is that there's a good balance of what all the Pokemon are good at, and in doubles, you can have a real plethora of alternate leads if need be. So for example, if you want Talonflame, you can pair Talonflame with Raichu, and Raichu can redirect all the lightning type moves that would deal a lot of damage to Talonflame. You can have Meowstic pair with Gyarados, and Meowstic could provide the support there as an alternative to Raichu. You can even lead with Hydreigon with Meowstic, Hydreigon with Raichu if you'd like. There's just so many different combinations that you can have in this team based on what you see with your opponent. There's also a bunch of other strategies that you can follow. The one that I just made is good stuff, so it's a very balanced team. But for example, you can make teams based on weather effects like sun, rain, hail, or sandstorms. It's crazy because a lot of Pokemon out there have abilities that get buffs from weather effects. You can also create a team based on Trick Room, which actually changes the dynamics of the game quite a bit because it, for 5 turns, makes slow Pokemon go first.
Just what Jeff said earlier, a perfect 0 IV, like sometimes you want a perfect 0 IV speed stat because you want to be
if
slow.
you have a Trick Room team, you kind of intentionally want your Pokemon to be slow.
Ferrothorn's a prime example of that.
Yeah, that guy's
With
slow.
Gyro Ball, it works great if you have 0 IV.
Yeah, he's super fast in Trick Room. There's also Gravity, which is actually a much less known strategy type or team archetype. It removes flying and lowers the evasion, removes flying and levitate immunity. So if you're fighting against the flying type or a Pokemon that has the levitate ability, you can hit them with Earthquake or Magnitude if you ever want to use that. And it lowers evasion of the opponent by 2 stages, which allows you to use those high power, low accuracy moves like Fire Blast with much more consistency. And there's also Perish Song. If you guys don't know what Perish Song is, it's essentially a 3-turn death timer. One of the Pokemon sings, and if the opponent stays on the field for 3 turns, he dies regardless.
If you stay on the field 3 turns, you die regardless. That's the double
What?
If you stay on the field for 3 turns, you die too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Don't say.
He's not talking about me. He's talking about the other Pokemon. Yeah. So Perish Song hits everyone on the field. So in doubles, you're setting a timer for both your opponents and you.
Unless you have soundproof.
Yeah, except for soundproof and a few other minutiae. But yeah, Perish Song is an amazing strategy. Now, I'm going to also go over a few example leads that you can look into. Mega Charizard Y and Venusaur is an awesome lead combination. This is actually relatively commonly seen. It's a great lead combination because Venusaur thrives in the sun. He has the ability to Chlorophyll, which gives Venusaur a huge boost in the sun. And guess what? Mega Charizard just so happens to bring sun just by being there.
Can I say?
Go do it.
Synergy.
Gosh, sometimes. There's also Amoonguss and Chandelure. This combo is actually really great since Amoonguss can use the ability Rage Powder. It's a priority ability which redirects all single target attacks towards Amoonguss. Kind of like that lightning rod ability that Raichu has, but it's a move, and it does all attacks instead of just electric. You can essentially consider Amoonguss a tank, like in an MMO, where he's trying to gain aggro from the opponent, while Chandelure sets up a move like Trick Room, which has a low priority. It allows Chandelure to do those moves without getting impeded. And another one I'm going to cover, which is actually not as well known, is Xcloud and Noivern. These guys are awesome together. They have amazing, just say it.
Synergy.
Yeah. Because of one move, Boom Burst. Does anyone here know what Boom Burst is? See, it's a very unknown move. Boom Burst is essentially a 150 base power move, special attack move, that hits everyone on the field. Both the opponents in doubles and your teammate. It's essentially a Hyper Beam, but for everyone, including your partner. The thing about these two is that the ability Soundproof protects Xcloud from Boom Burst, and Telepathy protects Noivern from any moves that Xcloud makes. So imagine 2 150 power special moves coming from both of these guys in one turn. It's amazing. These guys are super loud and super noisy.
Choice item that? That's gonna be nuts.
Yeah, choice item, yeah. These guys are awesome. I love these guys. Anyway, now that I've gone over a few examples, I'm going to go over just a couple of team building tips. I know Casey's been saying this a lot, but it's important. It's hard to really define what synergy is, but you have to essentially consider how well each individual team interacts with the rest of your team. See what a Pokemon is and how it's going to contribute to the weaknesses that the other team has. Just make sure there's coverage there. For example, like Raichu has excellent synergy with Gyarados and Talonflame because he can protect them from electric attacks. And so just make sure Pokemon actually work well with each other. You would pick a problem and solve it. Like if you know that a lot of your Pokemon like to use a move, or they're generally slow, use Trick Room. If your Pokemon is generally frail and they can get killed very easily, find a few tanks and include a tank or two in your team. If you don't have enough offensive capabilities, if you don't have enough physical attacking Pokemon or special attacking Pokemon, just throw them in there. Find a Pokemon that you like that fits with your typing and throw them in. This goes beyond type coverage. You have to consider status, effect vulnerability. If a lot of your Pokemon are susceptible to paralysis or sleep, consider that too. Another concept that's not really as well known is considering the phases of play. Some Pokemon are a lot better in the early part of the game as opposed to the mid game, as opposed to the end game. For example, a Pokemon like Meowstic is better in the early game because he would have more Pokemon to support. But by the time there's the end game, once a lot of your Pokemon start getting KO'd, the Meowstic wouldn't have as many Pokemon to support. So consider the phases of play. And can't stress this enough, but always have options. Always, always have options. You don't want to be stuck in a position where you have a whole team filled with water types and you see a lightning type team or a lightning type Pokemon that sweeps your entire team. Make sure there's diversity, make sure that you have multiple lead alternatives in your team, and just make sure you cover your bases.
All right, so you've made your team, you've trained it up, you had this brilliant strategy in mind. That's actually really kind of step one in this whole process to getting really good at Pokemon. I mean, making your team just pretty much allows you entry into this world of competitive play. But that's really just, like I said, the first step. This is a game that's constantly changing. The strategy that works today might not work tomorrow, and everything you do, your choice, and just you as a trainer are going to change in either just your style or what you know. So improving your game is really that skill that you have to pick up if you really do want to become a master at this game. You have to learn lessons, all right?
I'm so happy together.
So if you've gone out there and you've won, let's say you made your first team, you know, and maybe you're around some casual players in your friends circle. If you're winning 80% of your games, find stronger opponents. If you're winning 60, 50% of your games, find stronger opponents. Or bring your friends up to your level. And then bring them up. You got to do. So a lot of people like to play casually, and if they're not going to provide a challenge, you're going to have to go out there and find tougher opponents. Otherwise, you just get this false sense of awesomeness, and then you'll fight someone who actually, has a few years of experience and beat you. You don't know why. You're like, well, I beat all my friends. You must be cheating, hacker.
You hear that a lot. PAX.
So where do you go to find some good challenges? Well, so one of the best ways to find new challenges, go to a Pokemon League. I run one in New York City. There's on Pokemon.com. You can look up where there's Pokemon Leagues. It's not like tournament play. Don't feel like stressed out. You're going to go there. If I lose the first round, I'm out. It's a casual environment, and it's a really friendly place. And they give you cool little trinkets if you just show up. And it's a great place to meet strong trainers. There's a lot of good trainers in my league. I bring my team down there hoping to lose. Because honestly, you don't learn anything from victory. You just kind of learn, all right, something worked. You could also, if there's no Pokemon League in your neighborhood, you could start one. It's not that hard to do. They have easy instructions on the Pokemon.com website where you can go and set one up. You can also, if you're into the singles particularly, Smogon.com is a great place to find people who talk about this sort of stuff.
Who here goes on Smogon? Still a pretty good amount of people. Cool.
Yeah. You want to be, the mentality you want to have, you want to be like the Greek traveling warriors like Goku or Ryu or Gary Oak. You want to head out there. It's going to be. Yes.
Ash is always going to be better than Gary Oak, regardless.
I might just start
haters.
Shots fired.
You want to seek that, you want to be that person who goes out there looking for someone stronger than you, because that's going to make you the better player.
I want to be the very best, like no one ever was.
Alright, so the next step is you've gone out there. You found someone who can thrash you. Congratulations, you've been defeated. Outstanding. Here's your mental checklist of things that you want to do once you've been beat. First off, don't cry cheap. Alright? The game, at the highest level, every team looks cheap and broken. Like, especially if you're just not playing on, you're not that great at it yet, you're gonna think, no, that should be banned, or that Pokemon's too strong, and you're just gonna, your first reaction is just gonna be anger and denial. Then go to acceptance, because honestly, there's probably something in there you can learn. Ask yourself, number 2, ask yourself why you lost. Like, literally figure it out. Sometimes it's because you made a bad choice on the second round, and oh yeah, I probably should have, protected that round. Maybe it was just pure chance, and you're like, oh, well, he did paralysis and it stopped me every turn. I really don't think I could have done anything better. But understand why and think about it rationally. And then 3, imagine how you could have won. Now, this is pretty important because maybe that was just something as simple as send out a different lead or do another attack on a certain turn. Or maybe you need another attack on your team, or maybe you should change out that, maybe that Squirtle on your team wasn't as good an idea as you thought.
Squirtle's always a good idea.
That's true. I don't know what I'm talking about. Then, after you figure out the change, or why you lost and how you could have done better, decide if you need to make that change. I mean, no matter how good you are, you're going to lose. Even the greatest players are going to lose like 60 to 80% of their they're going to only win 60 to 80% of their games. So don't feel like every time you lose you have to make a change. But, sometimes you realize this is a big weakness and you have to make some change. So this brings me to the metagame. Now, how many of you have heard the term metagame or know what it is? You've all heard it. How many of you actually think you know what the heck it means? Alright. Something just happened to me this weekend at PAX, and I have to go off the script here for this because this was just too perfect an example. I had a Perish Room team. Like, he went over there, and he helped me plan it. It's a devious team that uses Gengar with Mega Gengar and a Shadow Tag, and it forces them to stay there to the last turn, and then you switch out, and they die. They hated this team. I played everyone on this panel pretty much played it, and they were like, that's evil. We came here to PAX. They all had Perish Room teams, and they used it against me. And this guy here, he beat me with my own team pretty much. And I was like, whoa, all right, well, what am I going to do about this? And I just tweaked my team a little bit, and I was like, all right, I just had a new, I put a Murkrow on my team, which actually, oddly enough, works as a Murkrow. And I threw him in there, and I did a slight changes, and he didn't actually know a couple of things, like there's some lessons he had to learn too about mastering this kind of team. He didn't know that ghosts are immune to Shadow Tag, or that other Shadow Tag Pokemon are immune to Shadow Tag, forcing you to stay in play. And now he knows. So I had to change my game plan to beat his team. Now he learned something. Now he had to change his game plan. And we're all this is going to be our metagame now. We're all basically, for a little while at least, we're going to be adapting our teams, how to beat a Perish Stone team. But you know what, after a while, maybe someone comes along with a Boom Burst team, and he wipes the floor with us. We're like, oh, well, we should maybe figure out how to beat that. And then it just constantly changes. And being ahead of that curve, and knowing, you know what? A Boom Burst team will walk around any day and beat me. I should be ready for that now. That's metagaming. That is figuring out the game outside the game and changing and adapting to advance it. And there's a lot of things like that that I've had to figure out with my team. Like, there's been several times where I just like wished I had Encore on my team and I had to breed one of my guys, even though it was just like, darn, Bulbapedia didn't list it as one of the egg moves. And I had to rebreed my team, or just one Pokemon rather, just to get this egg move on him. It is important though, a lot of people like to get attached to a particular Pokemon or a particular team and they don't want to change anything. And that's fine, but you're not playing the full strategy of the game. The Pokemon isn't just that one battle you have, it is the long-term strategy that makes it an interesting game over time. Other things that might force you to adapt and change to the metagame, Pokemon are often, sometimes they're just declared not legal for play. Right now, Frostlass isn't tournament legal. She is one of my favorites. I am waiting for the day for her to be legal again, and I will find a way to put her on my team. New moves
to be legal.
What?
When is that? 18 years? That was gross, I'm sorry. I promise this won't be gross.
They'll probably be legal soon.
New Pokemon become available. Every generation, that changes the strategy. If you have a team that's only guys from like Gen 2 and 3, you might want to change them to adapt. Even if you want to stick to Gen 2 and 3 guys, fine, but you might want to change your team lineup to compensate for the guys that are newly available. And now that they've become fairy types, maybe some of your old favorites are even a different type now. Even new hidden abilities. Some Pokemon have abilities that are only available at certain events. If you want to keep up on this sort of stuff, one of the biggest suggestions I can give you is just to pay attention to like the news. It's almost like you want to look at like Bulba news or follow some good like Twitter feeds. That's going to give you the information that you need to know to stay ahead of the curve. And so that's something that I think a lot of high-level trainers do. They pay attention to what's new and changing all the time. And yeah, these are some great websites. Cerebi is like my fail-safe site for all this kind of information. Okay, so basically, finally, I guess I just want to explain to everyone, the last thing I really want to impress upon everyone is to, A, keep experimenting with your teams. This is a great community. Never be afraid of losing, because I've never played against someone who has like laughed and pointed at me. There's a great, people are always like willing to tell me what I did wrong. And if you experiment, you'll find out new ways to make your team better. Because this is a very, very deep system. Especially in doubles battles, I feel that there is a lot of room to try out new strategies. It's not just, it is also pretty accessible, even if you just want to get into this. It's not too overwhelming, I find, for people. But as you play it, it just becomes second nature. You just know, oh, he's got that Rhyperior over there. He probably has like Hyper Beam or whatever on him. You'll just learn this as you play it. So it's a very strategic and deep game, but it's not a hard one to get your head around there. And like I said, the best community ever. And also, if you ever are just totally beaten by something, don't be afraid to do what they did and just steal it outright. And you saw a Charizard X that was just like, wow, that is amazing. I don't think I could beat that. Yeah, he's going on my team. Just recruit him. It's all fair game, it's all fun, and just keep playing because honestly, it builds a great community, and all of you, I think you'll really enjoy being part of it.
Now, real quick question. Who here mostly plays singles? And who here mostly plays doubles?
Alright. Try, if you're only doing singles, like, I'm not going to start any flame war. I'm not going to start, like, doubles to
Sick 'em, guys!
But I really do think you should try, because honestly, this generation, I feel, is balanced specifically for the doubles game. That's how I feel Nintendo and Game Freak balanced the Pokemon. And you can just see when you look at them, oh, this was made. All those things, all those pairs JV noted, they made those knowing you would use them. They're like, here, do this, use this awesome strategy. Because that's what they do. They test them out, and it's definitely been tested for doubles. And that's why there's so many banned Pokemon in the one-on-one scene because they might be overpowered in singles battles, but there are totally ways to compensate for that in the doubles. So just try it out, guys. Give it a shot, doubles.
Oh, and one thing to add on doubles. I would recommend setting it to flat battle where you bring 6 Pokemon with you, but you only use 4 Pokemon at a time, because those are used under VGC rules. Because like they use the similar rules where you cannot use legendary Pokemon, and you can only use Pokemon who were born in the Kalos region.
Right. Flat battles are awesome because it automatically reduces the Pokemon down to level 50, so you don't even have to level up all the way to level 100 like you used to.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell them we're going to be after this?
Go ahead.
Yeah, if you have any questions, we're running out of time here, so if you want to talk to us, we're going to be right in the open courtyard food court area that's like right outside here. Also, just hope everybody, did anyone go to PBGC last week, by the way?
There
No, really?
wow, someone right there.
Everyone here for singles, right? That's why I want to play singles battle.
Yeah.
And also, just keep in mind that like what you read on Smogon is not like the end all of what can be done with your team and strategies. These are just examples. You don't have to say, oh, it's not on Smogon, so I can't do it. You can do whatever you want.
Get out there, get creative, do a lot of battles, meet lots of people in the community, and
you can join Street Pass Long Island, you can join Street Pass NYC, Street Pass Boston, obviously. The Pocket Players, and you can talk to people and learn new strategies online. So
we like that
join all
tournaments on our
groups.
site. So
Yeah, join all the groups.
And think about it, you're in a big room with a lot of relatively new Pokemon players, so some of you are kind of on the same level. You can just go ahead and pair up and battle with each other.
And the same goes for people who haven't played Pokemon in a long time or are finally getting back into it as well.
Yeah. Pokemon X and Y is the best generation to just hop in and start playing again.
Yeah. So this is the perfect time.
I never battled before this generation. I was like, no, I'd be training. No, I don't have enough time for that.
So
you don't get
I got a job.
So it is definitely the most convenient Pokemon game you can ever imagine.
And as far as actually at the convention, once again, the PAX East Pokemon League is here in the handheld lounge. Go there and challenge people. Even if the gym leaders are busy, challenge other fans waiting. And
thank you all for coming.
Thank you so much. Have a good rest of the convention. Enjoy yourself.
Feel free to stop any of us and ask questions if you want.
We're here all
Yeah, we're going to be here practically all